I probably shared with you about my experience in Bible college. That was like, I'd say the best year of my early Christian life. The whole time before then, I went to a Wesleyan church. And, just to share some stuff with you, I don't know if I had spoke on this in my other videos, but when I was like, let's say 19, 20, I was in this like internet relationship with this girl who was in Canada. And, I went up to meet her one time, and then it seemed like right after that, everything fell apart. And so I was going to because of the failed relationship, I was going to commit suicide because I was just tired of dealing with pain. But it wasn't long after that a couple of friends, they knew of my situation, and they went to this Wesleyan church, and they were telling me about the church and the pastor, and they told me to come because the pastor, I guess, wanted to meet with me. So I met with the pastor, and I guess I was just relaying to him the stuff that was going on in my life. And I just recall one day I was going to Burger King, and he was going over I think it was like the 4 spiritual laws or something like that, and he was leading me into accepting Jesus. And it reminds me of the Keith Green song, Your Love Broke Through. And, just talking about how we're all asleep until Jesus wakes us up, and that's the way it seemed with me. All my life I was, just searching, for love and acceptance and stuff like that. And honestly, I found it in Jesus. And, I recall I had such a spiritual hunger, just wanting to read the Word and stuff. I more or less, you could say, devoured the entire New Testament. I was just reading and reading and reading. And it seems like God really put the Word in my heart to where I was just wanting to do everything that it stated, living as I should. And, I've had so many experiences, just through God with everything. And I recall just one time where, I was reading the Word. I was just reading and, reading the Word, and I happened to look up, and then there was this man that was laying out in the yard in the next apartment complex. And I heard God say, I thought he said to me, or it was like a prompting, go out to him. So I went out to him, and he was telling me that he was evicted, and his roommate didn't pay his part of the rent, and he drank a gallon of whiskey and stuff like that. So, what can I offer anybody at that time? I'm in my early 20s. So the only thing I could really offer is the words of Jesus. And so I got all the stuff from the Beatitudes in Matthew 5-7, anything that would apply, because he was worried about what he was going to do. And so I shared with him, don't worry about your life, what you will eat, what you drink, or what you will wear. And all that stuff, everything that would apply to him, I was reading to him. And I recall him getting up on his knees, with tears in eyes, and he says, God, help me, please. And, so, experiences like that were just so amazing. And I don't know if this happened after Bible college or before, but I recall my pastor speaking on Easter Sunday, and when he was speaking, it was like I had this fire in me, that I wanted to do the same thing. I wanted to preach like he did. And so, since I told him about it, he thought it would be good for me to go to the Bible college that he went to, in which we happened to go up there to visit and check it out. Sorry, I keep yawning. I don't really get a lot of sleep. I try to get like a nap during the day, and if I don't, I just feel groggy, and then God always puts energy back in me, but I just sleepy. But so I had that fire in me. I told him about it. We went up to the Bible college, and so I made it a plan to go there. And of course, I had a job, I believe, at that time as a cashier at a supermarket. And of course, I couldn't put anything to the tuition. So he made sure that I signed up, for a student loan to help pay it. And of course, they would help out through their church. But before I did that, he would set me up under a contract that I would promise to get good grades, and they would have to approve of the job I did during the summer, and all these other things, all these loopholes I had to jump through. And I didn't know it was an ungodly contract until I received healing for it by two ladies who specialized in it. And so, of course, we had to have that broken off in the heavenlies, because that was like condemnation that was weighing against me. But, let's get back to I went up there, and I believe the first half of the season I was more or less to myself. I knew some people I talked to, joked with them, but it wasn't until I met a group of friends, in the Bible college, in which, my immature self came out, and I was joking around. I would always stand up in the cafeteria and make announcements, and it was all for the purpose of getting people to laugh. I know some sneered at me or whatever, and I'm sure some of the teachers and the workers there at the school didn't appreciate it. But my friends enjoyed it. They laughed. I used to quote Happy Gilmore. We used to, Saturday nights, we used to watch Mystery Science Theater 3000, the movie, and we watched Happy Gilmore. Those were the two that we always seemed to watch. And so we were up until early in the morning, and we were so tired, some of us just didn't go to church. And that was a requirement of going to the Bible college. And at that time, I was under the Christian Development Program at the college. And I guess some of the decisions that I made, I guess they thought that, I wasn't doing any good. And so, of course, to find out if any of the students went to church, they would open up their doors and check on them. Invasion of privacy. That's, looking back on that now, it's like trying to control somebody's spiritual walk. There is no freedom. And it's for freedom that Christ set us free. So, you don't understand it at that time. I didn't understand it at that time. But looking back on it now, rules like that is like tyranny. Now, I'm not talking about, having a license to sin or anything. That's not what I mean. But I'm saying that you should be able to stop looking at somebody's decisions that they make and trust, that God's got them. And so, they bust into our rooms, check and see if we went to church, and go to chapel, attend our classes, get the grades that we need. And, I had always been like a C student. And, that's pretty much around the grades that I got. I went to I guess it was a associate dean, and he helped me with a schedule, putting all the classes down and, figure out times that I needed to be able to study, in which I followed that. And I thought I did pretty well. I had time to study. I had time to hang out with friends. And I thought I was honestly growing. I thought I was growing in love. I was always helping my friends. If they needed any kind of spiritual advice, I would be there for them. But they just didn't like my character. They didn't like me standing up, making announcements, making people laugh. I look back on it, yeah, it was immature. But, knowing my heart at the time, it was just to get people laughing. I know my friends liked it. But I know the dean called me in because of, some issues. I don't really remember what they were. But, I guess I was being reprimanded for something. I think it was like not going to church on Sunday because I stayed up late. And of course, Christian development, it's to help you to become a good Christian, I guess. But they didn't let me back at the Bible college because of the decisions I made through the flesh. After I got home from the Bible college, it was like maybe a year or more later. It was always like a dream of returning back there to seeing my friends again. And of course the motive was wrong. You go to Bible college, to learn and to get a degree to become a pastor or something like that. But I wanted to go and see my friends. And so I guess God kept me from that because he had better plans for me. But I guess he just didn't want me to go there. But they sent me a rejection letter when I tried applying. They said, we don't know where you're headed, but it's not here. So apparently with them, there wasn't any room for mistakes. You're not allowed to make mistakes, and I surely made them. It's not like I lived my entire life as a Christian. I didn't come to God until I was like 20 or so. And I'm just coming out of the world, and I recall when I got there, I was talking with a girl, and, I was in a conversation with her and somebody else, and I let a cuss word slip out. Because, I'm coming from the world. And so she's like, hey. And so I guess she was offended or whatever with that. I'm not saying that profanity is right, but, she didn't know my story. She didn't know I was recently saved. And so, when you're getting to that place of becoming more like Jesus, you're going to make mistakes along the way. And, I made plenty of them. It seemed with me, I was always struggling with the flesh, and that, something that God was trying to kill. And, I was immature, and so they rejected me based off, so many things. But, did they even take the time to see how far I progressed? What I've learned, my character. I'm not saying that I had the best character there, coming out of the world, and, I was still young, and, you know, but why couldn't they see, you know, all the things that I had done for God? Like helping that guy that was laying out on the lawn, or, witnessing to people and bringing people to Christ. I recall being at a grocery store, and I had my Bible in my hand, and I was just reading it. And a businessman sits down next to me and says, "Is that a Bible you're reading?" I said, "Yeah," and it was a good, conversation opener. So I started telling him about, you know, God. I was listening to him, and he recommitted his life to Christ. He said, that's what it was about. But they didn't see any of that. They didn't see how far I've come, what I've been doing, my seeking God, doing what God, wanted me to do at that time. I did come along with Christ. It's not like I backslided, and never went back to him again. What's something is a good majority of the people that went to that Bible college, they're not following God anymore, from what I heard. It's pretty sad when, you start taking your eyes off Jesus and start putting your eyes on somebody else and what they're lacking, or what you think they're lacking. I was talking with friends about it, and they said, just that stuff's in the past and all that. You shouldn't let it bother you. I mean, it don't bother me anymore, but I recount the stuff because, what they've done is they brought condemnation, not only to me, but a close friend of mine. Who else did they bring condemnation to? But regardless of the outcome, I'm grateful that God allowed me to meet so many of good people there, friendships that I had made. I mean, a majority of them I don't talk to. I mean, it's here like a hi-bye kind of thing. It's not really an in-depth conversation, because they got their own families. But, I'll never forget, because, that was such a special year of my life. And I think through God that I was developing, and maybe not the way they wanted me to, because I'm not going to hold myself to any expectations of any other believers. I'm not going to walk in the path that they're setting for me. I'm walking in the path that God has for me. And I think God has really brought me a long way. I've learned about faith, on my own. No one's taught me that. I learned how to trust him just by, believing his words. And then I think it's a huge accomplishment, writing the books that I'm writing, spending years on each of them. So, I don't give much credence to their expectations of me. Yeah, maybe I didn't go to church, like I was supposed to then, but that doesn't make me any less than a Christian. or I should say follower of Jesus. But I'll never forget some of the grades I didn't do didn't too well on, but there was this one class, I forgot what the name of it was, but the teacher said that if you bring somebody to Christ, then you automatically get an A. And, I brought my mom to Christ, and I didn't get no A. It's like he just bypassed me, or probably didn't believe it. But, that's the whole problem is, I guess people were numbers to them. What about bringing somebody to Christ and sticking with them, hearing their struggles? That's one thing that, I agree with what the pastor that brought me to God did, is that he got me a Bible, he sat with me, he gave me some scriptures to memorize, and that, just set me off, in what I was supposed to do. And, I had a hunger for the Word. And, that's, I think, what we really need to do with new Christians. Sit with them, get to know them, who they are. If they got any questions, they can ask us. People aren't numbers to be carried into the kingdom and then forgotten about. Well, I brought you to God, so I don't have to worry about you anymore. Yeah, I recall one church, they needed a recommendation before. No, not a recommendation. I don't know what I'm thinking. The church that I went to, yeah, they needed a recommendation because I wanted to go back to the Bible college, so they wanted a recommendation. The college wanted a recommendation of the church and, how I was doing, which I wasn't doing good according to them. But that particular church, they would send people out, they would have this passion play. And anybody that was new that came, they would ask for their name and address and all that, so that they would send a few representatives from the church to inquire about them. Are they going to church? This or that. And I think that's an intrusion. I would just, send a phone call out there, say, hey, I would call them. If it's a guy, I'd be like, hey, you want to hang out here at this coffee shop? Or, have a woman call another woman, say, hey, you want to hang out? Or maybe have some kind of social where you have a few snacks or whatever. And, just to get to know somebody, for them, to progress on in God. You don't need to be sending people to their houses and check on them and see if they're walking with God. It's not up to you if they're walking with God. It's up to God, But I don't think it hurts to give an invitation to something to where you can get to know them. You don't have to involve yourself in their lives or push yourself into their lives. If they want you in there, you send out the invitation. If they want you in their lives, that's great. But anyways, the whole Christian development thing, that's up to God. And it depends on how close we want to be with Him. You don't have to live your life to the approval of another person. What matters is that you're progressing on with Jesus in, learning from Him. So I'm going to end the video here. Thanks for taking the time to watch.